All right, today we're going to do a review on the Kobalt 24-volt cordless jigsaw. And before we get into it, I need to ask y'all to subscribe to my channel and like this video if you would. It only takes a second and it helps out a lot, and I'd really appreciate it. Along with a review on the tool, I'm going to go into the things that you want to look for in a jigsaw, even if you're not going to buy a Kobalt. This is just any jigsaw. What you want to look for, what makes a jigsaw a good one or a bad one. And I'll point those out on this jigsaw as I go through it. And as you can see with this one, I have put this thing through the ringer. This is a more than 6-year-old tool. I've dropped it, I've spilt stuff on it, I've literally used it as a hammer, I've done everything you can think of to this tool, and it works as good today as the day I bought it. It doesn't look as good as it did, but it works as good. So what makes this a good one? Number one thing, we'll start here at the bottom and see this plastic. See this plastic cover here? This thing is important because if you scratch this or abrade this in any way, it'll create burrs and little metal pieces hanging out if this wasn't here. And the metal, as you're cutting, the metal will scratch your project, the wood on your project. So this plastic cover is really helpful because the plastic is soft. You can see how scratched up mine is, but it doesn't scratch the wood when I cut with it. So this is really important. The other thing is the thickness of the base here. You see how thick that is? That's really important. You can look at the other ones, the cheaper ones, they've got a really thin metal base. It's just not even 1/8 of an inch thick. They can bend easily, and they won't have a good plastic cover either. So that's important. See how thick that is? I have dropped this on concrete and it doesn't bend. It's still rock solid. So that's what you want to look for when you're looking to buy a jigsaw. A real good, thick, solid base. So it actually, this lever here actually adjusts this little bar down there, and it puts pressure on this, on your blade. So if you want to cut through a 2x4 or something, you can put it all the way down to 0 and there's 0 play. It pushes hard against it. When you put it up on 3, there's a lot of play in the blade. So if you're cutting thin material and you need to spin it around real fast, you won't destroy your project. You won't mess up your project because it'll actually cut slower. When you have it on 0, this is real stiff and it'll zip right through it. That's for cutting 2x4s or thicker material. All right, and on this side, you actually have, let me see if I can get it up there where y'all can see it. You actually have a setting, that's a blow. It actually blows air down. So when you're cutting with it, sawdust builds up in here and this little setting blows it out, which is really good. And another thing here is this. Can you see that? Yeah. See that in there? How that actually locks in there with that little pin. Okay, that is controlled by this. See, when I flip that lever, that releases that pin and I can spin that at an angle. Well, when I flip it back, it actually locks in there with the pin. So that's important because you don't want this thing wiggling around on you while you're cutting. The cheaper ones have, like, they twist and they pinch instead of locking in with a pin like that. They pinch and they can move still if there's enough pressure put on them. With that pin locked in there, it can't move. So that's another good thing about this one. Also, it's just sturdy. This is how you release the blade with this here. That whole, you push that whole thing out and the blade pops out. See that? That's how you release the blade. So overall, this is a really good product, really good tool for both do-it-yourselfers at home and for pros working on the job. I have just cut miles of plywood and 2x4s with this thing, and it is not balked at anything I've thrown at it. I've cut metal with it. You just buy a different kind of blade. It'll cut anything with the right blade, and it's still strong to this day. So, and those are the things you want to look for when you're purchasing one. And you want to try to go to the store. If it's important to you and you want to get a good one, you want to actually go to the store and hold it in your hand and get a feel for it and look at those things that I pointed out there. You can't really get a feel for stuff when you're just, when you're ordering it online. I mean, you can read reviews, but it's not the same as feeling it yourself and looking at the thing yourself, because you don't know what those people have, how much they've used it, if they've used it at all, if they were paid to review or whatever. So I always, when I buy tools, I always physically go to the store and buy it myself. So if you can do that, or if you're willing to do that, that's the best option. But other than that, this is a great product. And if you don't want to invest in the Kobalt lineup, if you get something similar with these features, I'm sure you will be happy with it. Thank you very much for watching, and remember that yes, you can do it yourself.